Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Studios. We're here live with another interview. Today we are joined by one and only Exotic Youth, Zach Mosley. Zach, what's going on, buddy? How you been, man?
Man, I've been fantastic, busy as ever. Honestly, can't complain. Other than the fact that it's hard to keep up with all the places you're making money.
Yeah, I know you got a lot going on, man. Look, it's early in the year. I mean, literally, we're just kind of rolling into Q2, but Q1's kind of behind us. Give us a quick little recap on 2024 for the Exotic Youth so far, and then we'll dive into what we're really here to talk about.
Yeah, man. So I think a lot of it all runs together because a lot of it's still going on. We've been involved in some long-term stories, some stuff that really issues that go back from years before. I mean, January, February, March has mostly been about the ongoing conspiracies that we've been subject to from Southern Honor Management. I don't know how long it's been since Gary initially took shots at us online when we had nothing to do with him at the time. You know, I hate to be somebody who holds grudges, but like when you're somebody who just goes out of your way to mess with people who had nothing to do with you, who are succeeding and taking away from your spotlight. And really, that's what I think most of it's been. So you've seen we quit Southern Honor Wrestling. We came back. We'll get into a little bit more specifics about that story later on because I got a lot to say about that. But and for the first few months, I was defending the Coastal Empire Wrestling Heavyweight Championship, and I was getting begged and harassed by Pastor Donald Jaykes to join his ministry. So, man, between all those things, my phone's not stopped blowing up all year. So it's kind of hard to take a minute and look back when it's all going on at like, why did we end up here? Why did we end up here with these people? And not only that, Skrilla the Great, a rivalry from a couple years back, reignited with the Deep South last month. And he absolutely screwed me out of the Deep South Heavyweight Championship. So I'm right there getting back to feeling like I did before my injury last year, feeling like I have the opportunity to really get back up in that conversation. I got people screwing me out of it. And how am I supposed to complain because that's what I did to people for years? And it's kind of making me think to myself, why did I quit doing what was working? So maybe Empire Wrestling, you're going to see that because between Chip Skyler, Donald Jaykes, and Simon Sermon, Gary Lamb, Skrilla the Great, my life's been a living hell over the past year, to be honest with you. And this year, it looked like it was going to be off to a great start, but every plan that we had so far hasn't worked out for the best. So,
well, you brought up a we because I want to clarify. Like, look, we obviously are sitting here. The interviews with you. But look, we try to go out of our way to be fair in our coverage. And look, between like the Exotic Youth as a package and the three individuals, we always go out of our way to say, hey, look, we don't always agree with the tactics used, but
right.
You guys across the board, whether it's as a team or individually, you guys are having success all over the state, and even outside the state for that matter. So. A little bit just kind of tell, like, hey, yes, we're talking Zach Mosley, but there is a package involved in Exotic Youth too. You got a couple buddies that you run with, so let the people that are listening, hey, look, we got people in Michigan and Texas and California. A little bit about the Exotic Youth before we dive too deep. I want them kind of know who Zach Mosley and the Exotic Youth is.
Well, the first point that you made that like I want to draw attention to is like. You guys are some of the only ones who are really giving us our due credit right now. You guys mention us at least once per segment on your show, it seems like at this point. And for years I was like, why is Tapped Out not looking at Exotic Youth? Why are they not looking at it? And now it seems like y'all are the ones who are pushing it and everybody else is overlooking it. But like you said, when it comes to us, Bryce Cannon, I mean, he has come so far over the past couple of years. And he went from being somebody who was mostly known for the work that he was doing with Exotic Youth, somebody who was kind of like not taking it serious for a long time. and he really stepped up his game. And I'm so proud of Bryce for what he's accomplished
Mm-hmm.
over the past year, and him being ranked number one in the recent Georgia Wrestling History report, and me being in the honorable mentions. I think we were both still underrated, even though Bryce was number one and I was in honorable mention. Yeah, that was a bit crazy, but I'm glad he's getting his just due, and I wish Pepper Bottom was as well, because people really underestimate how valuable Pepper Bottom is to a show. But like you said, I think you guys have brought this up before. It's all three of us are very different. We all three think very differently about the business. We all three agree, though, on a lot of things about the business that like we think are essential to succeed, and we always think about it in terms of business. So we try not to let any conflicts get in the way, any kind of, I don't know. We try to make decisions with logic, not with our emotions, until you go and stab us in the back and screw us over to the point that some of these promoters and pastors and whatever else have. But yeah, I mean, this year for Bryce, it was going absolutely fantastic. He just beat Matt Cardona, I think it
Mm-hmm.
was a couple months ago, which you guys brought up. Super cool to see that. And this is like a little inside piece that I don't know if anybody had picked up on this, but for months, man, I've been telling Bryce, you need to do this move and call it the people's tip drop, because the tip was getting over so good. And I was like, you need to do the people's elbow, but with the tip. And he was like, oh, no, that's stupid. That's stupid. And he told me for months it was stupid, and I kept telling him you need to do this. And I've seen the clips from him in Cardona's match, and he did it. And I was like, you son of a bitch. It was like he sat there and then did that little cookie. He was like, yeah, I was waiting for the right moment to pull it out. I was just messing with you. But
Yeah, and like you said, it's the three of you. It is the styles and even the looks are a little bit different. But that's like I said, we go like look as a team. There was an episode where we do a little segment called the hot hand power five, etc. And we were sitting there like as a team, we had you as number one, and then we had Bryce as number one as a single, and it literally we didn't even think about it until we said it. Like we were
no,
like
really,
saying it on the air, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Did we literally just say Exotic Youth has like the number one and the number one tag team and the singles guy at the time? That was crazy, but that's how hot you guys were. That you had been all over the
yeah. And
state
I
and
mean,
still are.
and I don't want to sound arrogant about it, but like, I think it's been that way for years. Like, I think if not we're some of the most valuable total packages, like individually and as a group in the whole state, and have been for years. I mean, the amount of difference we make at promotion. We try not to overstep or whatever. Maybe we're brought in for a one-off or just a couple of shows because, let's be honest, we can't be everywhere all the time. But the places that see what we have to offer, we always make a difference, a big difference. And if you look at the reports over the years, like really the past 3 years, any of the stuff that Exotic Youth was involved in, any of the stuff we were involved in individually, is always going to be a highlight on a show, because we're not just thinking about like how are we getting ourselves over. We're thinking about how are we going to make the fans buy into this emotionally. How are we going to get the fans to feel something and believe in something that otherwise, they're not really getting too many other places, because most people, they go and they get in the ring, they have their match, and then they go home. For me, anytime I have something, I like to make it personal. There's no reason for me to go into the ring and just compete. There needs to be stakes involved.
Jeff Jarrett has a
So,
saying on his podcast: personal issues sell tickets. It's
no
not
doubt.
matches. Yeah, and that's it's like the then what? That's always the question. Then what? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you go out and have a great match, well then what? And it's like I said, that is that one thing. And look, I know this sounds at this moment, and I'm gonna catch you off guard probably with this. This sounds like a total like hey love fest right here, but I'm like, look, we've got some things we're gonna have down the road that I'm sure we disagree on, right? And you know what
No,
they
no
are
doubt.
before we get there.
Yeah.
But look, you guys are killing it, and like I said, even though if we don't agree, we always try to at least give you credit where they're due, and of course that's where you, Bryce, Pep, Exotic Youth as a package deserve it. And then we wanted to do that before we dove into the meat of this interview. But let's get in a little bit, what we were talking about. Look, you've got some duties, some things are going on. We wanted to talk about Coastal Empire Wrestling. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll let you have the conversation here. So tell the people again, whether it's Texas, Wisconsin, all these places, Coastal Empire Wrestling. Tell a little bit about it and kind of like how this came to be and like why we're sitting here talking about Coastal Empire.
Okay, so it's hard for me to figure out like where is the beginning of the story because it's like so many events led to it. But when I was out on injury last year, I had started trying to get involved more creatively to stay busy while I was out, still be able to add value while I wasn't wrestling. And I started seeing like opportunities where people could improve on really so many aspects of their show and their business. And this isn't something I really bring up a lot, but I have a background in business. I have a degree in accounting and a master's in business. So as I've been coming up, traveling around over the years and going to all these different states and observing how different businesses are ran and how creative's done, I've always kind of been analytical about it, but I never really thought about having my own promotion, at least until I was much older. But opportunities arose, and I got to write for a company, and it was like my full-time office job, where they were getting in way over their heads, and they didn't know that, but like I did, and I had to try to tell them that, whatever. And it was a fun job. I got to do some things that I've never really seen anybody else get an opportunity to do on the indies as far as that goes, but it was not successful because it was already doomed from long before I got involved with it. So that led to me reaching out to Coastal after watching one of their YouTube shows, which I got to be brutally honest, I was getting pissed off watching it because I don't know if many people know this, but Exotic Youth had actually formed at Coastal in Savannah. That was the first place where we all three were seen together. The first place we had a 6-man tag before we even had, a regular tag match with any combination. That's where we formed. That's where we met Bryce, Peps, and I. And so been there since the very first show that they ever had there. We were a big part of it, and to me, it holds a special place because I went to Georgia Southern, so we're right here next to Statesboro, and that's where I spent several years. So I had when I came to Coastal, I could see friends I hadn't seen in a while. I knew people in the area, so it kind of had a bit of, I had a market to advertise too already built in, and so it became a place that felt like home to us, away from home. We all lived kind of in the Metro Atlanta area at the time, but back to how I hit them up. I watched the YouTube video and I was like, this is just not the quality that it needs to be. I was watching the matches, and the matches were just like the wrestlers weren't listening to the audience. They weren't listening to the fans. And the fans weren't saying anything at some point. And when you get to some point where the fans aren't saying anything for that long and they're not reacting to the things they should be reacting to, that means that it's not that they're mad that the bad guy's winning. It means that it sucks. Right. And people weren't realizing that. I don't think there was leadership in the locker room telling them what needed to be done differently, holding anyone accountable for that kind of thing. And really, I think at the time, the owners, which one of them is still part owner with me, and the other one, he helped build it as well. And they both were really involved with it, really killing it for the first couple years. But just different things happen in life, where you don't have as much time to put into certain things. And Exotic Youth, we hadn't been able to go there for a couple years because of scheduling. We just couldn't get the dates. So we were going to return. I was watching a YouTube video. I was like, man, this is not what it needs to be. I'm pissed because this is something we helped build up. I called him and I said, hey, just let me and Bryce handle this. Let us get you guys back where you need to be as far as quality, as far as talent goes. We know all the talent in the state. We know exactly how we could run this. We have experience in creative now. Let us handle it, and it started going really well. And so after a couple of months, I started thinking about ownership because for me, I'm putting so much into this. Mm-hmm. It takes up a lot of time, and it's not only that, you want to be able to see it through, and if you don't have that ability, then to me, I don't like incomplete projects. So I asked about ownership and told them I was interested in maybe throwing in on it or whatever. And they said, we think you're valuable to have on the team. We're just going to give you a percentage. And at the time, it was a third of the company, and then one of our co-owners recently just stepped away because I think he's moving back up to Missouri. So it's just he's at a different place in life right now, and he wanted us to take the reins of it. But since we've been back, it's been growing. We got a great relationship with the VFW here in Savannah now that we've started running at, which has been a game changer for us. We started going from going every 2 months to every month, and we just do things differently, man. The way that we run a show is like so detailed, and to some people probably think like, oh, micromanage, because we just care that much about it. Like we think about like when me and Bryce were booking the first couple of shows we did, we would spend 2 or 3 hours talking about each match that was going to be on the card, like before even presenting it to the guys, like about how we wanted the story to go. And we do that because we feel like that's kind of what our specialty is and how we can help is give these guys those opportunities. Because when I first started coming up, I focused mainly on like the athleticism and work rate type of thing because a lot of times I was doing one-offs in different places. I was traveling a lot more during the first few years because it was harder in Georgia to get booked because I didn't have any video footage that was of good quality. Which now, I mean, guys can get that on day one, which is awesome. Several years ago, there was only like a couple promotions that had video production and sound and all that. So I'm really glad to see that everyone's come along with that. But we like to take advantage of that and take it to the next level. We like to give people more for their character to dive into, like get deeper with their stories. We like to give them opportunity. We have a film team on hand to do pre-tapes and promos and whatnot that we not only insert into the YouTube videos, we use for the social media and promotion throughout. And, you know, we give direction on it if they want it. So it's like one of those things where like tell them this is the story we want you to tell. If there's enough for you to be inspired to do it and you think you got something, then that's cool if you need guidance or whatever. But we expect a lot from the people that we use and the people that we bring in because we want it to be a place that people who want to make it to the next level are working.
Let me ask you
Not a
because
place.
I don't mean to cut out because I
Go
want to
ahead.
ask you
Go
specifically
ahead.
here to what you're talking about. One of the biggest things that I say a lot, and I get a lot of pushback from a lot of the talents on this. When I always say something we mentioned earlier about personal issues sell tickets, I
Oh
always
yeah.
say stories draw money, not
Right.
matches. You can have the greatest matches, but if nobody cares who wins or loses, it's kind of after a while, it's like, okay, that was the same match as that one, as that one, as that one, as that. It was just match
Right.
after match. So I mean, based on what you're telling me, your focus is, hey, let's give them a story because when tonight's match is over, why do they want to come back next month? And then the month after that, and the
Yeah.
month after that, yeah.
Yeah. And even further than that, it's like even the places that are doing stories, I want to give them a little bit extra. You know, a little bit deeper into the story than you can get, and that's hard to do whenever you have a show only once a month. You know, so I like to really encourage people to go out of their way to do things to tell the story between shows and to do things that like are seeds for later, so you can always come back to it and say, "Oh, this has actually been brewing for a lot longer." So we really like to connect the dots in that way. And our strategy with like how we run a show is we want it to tell a story in one night as like an overall show. So like it feels like there's a beginning and end to a story in that night, but also that it all has consequence for the future.
Right.
Um, and
If
so and with that, and like with making sure that whatever ends the show has the fans not wanting to leave, they're on their feet, whether it be with concern, whether it be with excitement, whether it be with I don't know, crying tears of happiness because their hero won or whatever. What I would say is that if people are getting up the second that the bells rang at the main event, then it wasn't a success. But if you can't get people out of the building after the bell is rang at the end of the main event, and they're staying hanging on to every word if there's a post match, that's when you've got people hooked, and that's when you know they're going to come back because they don't want to leave. You can't kick them out.
correct.
So that's what we go for. I don't know if people. A lot of people I think know that that's what the goal is to do, but they don't like articulate that in their minds. You know what I mean? But a
Yeah.
lot of people do. A lot of people are great at that. So
And look, if you don't believe me, I was just literally having this conversation last week with somebody. I said, if you don't believe, like I truly okay, look, we're gonna kind of segue for a second here. WrestleMania, you have these 2 nights, the 2 stories, and they tied little bitty nuggets that you're like, oh my god, that was 4 years ago. Like, you know,
Right.
the Seth thing, and that's if more people would connect like little things and go like, hey, we're gonna come back to this. Just don't. We're not gonna solve this problem yet. We're gonna do it a year from now. And I know on the
Right.
indies, look, it's harder to do. Guys get signed. Guys get, all those things happen. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try. I mean,
No doubt.
agreed. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you should. And a lot of times I think people, like, they have the story in their head, and it's the story that, like, they're like, oh, this is a great story. But the fans aren't getting that from what you're showing. You know what I mean? They don't understand a lot of times because you're not going that deep. But for the fans that want that, those are the people who are going to be very diehard fans who aren't going to want to miss a show. And that's how you build, like, a very faithful fan base. You know what I mean? As opposed to just being able to draw a bunch of people to a show. People
right.
who really follow your story, follow the stuff on social media. And I use the same strategy for my own career. And it's like, how do I, but it's the thing that's difficult is like, how do I tell all these stories that are intertwined at the same time because they all have so much importance that should be the only thing I'm pissed about right now. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I stay so pissed about so many different things and have like all these different emotions at the same time? And so, same kind of thing with the show. Like, how do we give them something different in each segment? Like, how do we give them something that is entertaining, but nothing like anything else that's going to be on there? And when we book people, that's how we think. It's about how is this character going to connect? How many different kinds of situations can we put them in outside of just in a match? Because a lot of times I see it's just like baby face and heel, but I mean, I feel like you can go so much deeper than that, and you can do so much more than that with like how the 2 characters are going to interact. I mean, it's so different based on the individual that I don't feel like a lot of the old tropes and like classic rules of wrestling that most people learn about psychology and stuff. I don't think that really applies, other than to get the understanding of what it should be baseline. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And once you understand that, and you can tweak that in the little nuances that would show specifically how do these characters interact. That's what
And
can get people to be like, that's unique.
yeah, and it's because the characters and that was going to lead me into like, I know some of your duties there, handling that process. Like, what do you, if there's talent out there looking, like, what would advice is like, hey, we want to come in, because there's lots of younger guys out here like, that are looking for breaks and like, hey, how do we get in? Give a little bit of advice to them to like, hey, what is Coastal Empire looking for, in some younger talents to bring in? Because I know you do have some younger talents on the card as well, and
Oh, no doubt.
yeah,
No doubt. Um, I would say the same thing that like is pretty much the strategy for my own career in getting bookings. Something I didn't understand when I was before I got into booking was like, well, if they think I'm great and there's really nothing that they can tell me that I should be improving on to get to the level to be on their show, that I'm on that level, but they just don't have a place on the show. It's like, how do you fit in the storyline? How do you fit compared to the other characters? How different are you from everything else? But what we found with Exotic Youth that made it so successful is that we found something that everybody wanted to have because there's nothing else like it. So if you can find something that there's nothing else like it, and you stay highly trained, and you know what you're doing, and you're hungry, and that's the main thing, that you've got to be hungry, because we dedicate our lives to this. I mean, that's why we were good at it. If we had just said, oh, well, we're just going to train once a week and try to see what barns we can work in, like, that wasn't going to work for us. We were always about constant improvement. We always would watch back, critique our own matches just as if they were anybody else's. We are our own critics, and that's the way you have to be, but you can't beat yourself up about it either. It takes time to figure out, like, what is your thing in wrestling. And you got to try things to get there. You got to take risks. The thing for me is, so we brought in this new kid, A-Town Supreme. I think he's new out of WWE 4. He doesn't have too much experience, but the guy has a great look. He wrestles with all kinds of jewelry on, which I don't know about, like, how safe that is. I'll have to ask him, like, how that's gone for him in his matches in the past. But he wears, like, watches and all these chains. He, like, raps. So we had him rap on the way to the ring. I mean, that's something unique. We don't have anybody else who's doing it like that. And he's also like not the same as other gimmicks I've seen similar in the past, like what are they called on AEW? The one guy who raps.
The
He's
acclaimed,
not
the
like
acclaimed.
Max
Yeah,
Caster, I think it is. He's
yeah.
nothing like that. He's nothing like John Cena. You know, he's totally different. Um, he's big. He's in shape. Um, and for his character, you know, that's what we would want. So that doesn't mean like everybody has to be like a bodybuilder or whatever. But if you're going to be a character, if you know you're not going to look like an amazing physical specimen, then don't go for that kind of gimmick. Find something that suits you and make it your own, and find ways to make it connect with an audience. Because
Correct.
to me, that's the number one thing I'm looking at. Did everybody come back safe? And how did the crowd react? Because to me, what makes it successful is, did we get the reaction we wanted at the time that we wanted it by doing the thing we intended to do? And if you don't get that answer, then I don't care if you had a 5-star match. And that's what a lot of guys don't understand. It's like if you didn't further the story by getting the reaction, invoking the emotion from the audience that you should have by the thing that we had intended to get that emotion, it either comes down to the booking or the execution, right? So,
Oh yeah. And that listen,
so
I when you were just
we're learning as well. So,
yeah, when you described that what you were saying, there's a look. And I don't mean to probably pick a sore subject here, but I mean, like I see when you're describing that talent, somebody like Cody Fluffman.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely,
I mean, like, look, you're
absolutely.
entertained. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people that go, he's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I'm like, and I'm not saying he can't work because he obviously can,
I
but he's
mean, you're
not
spot
going
on.
out there and giving,
He's
yeah.
coming. He will be at Coastal within the next few months. We do have dates with Cody. So,
Good, 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 good. Well, look, hey, you talk about dates at Coastal. We're still going to keep talking about it, but I wanted to kind of let everybody know what the next show is and what we're looking at. And that one is, of course, coming up super soon. Give everybody like a little heads up of what can they expect April 27th, and then we'll kind of come back to that.
so with all that being said about how much it means to me, the company, and how much of a personal project it's been for me, I've not been able to do everything that I've wanted to do in the company because I've had Simon Sermon and Chip Skyler hands in the pot the entire time. They pretty much try to control everything that goes on there, and this spans back from long before Coastal Empire Wrestling. They actually another company that one that went under that we won't name the name of. Chip Schuyler also had a part in, and his daddy was putting his hands in behind the scene. And we had some conflict there. And then at the Ride on Row show, the show we did at Statesboro and Georgia Southern University last year, Chip Schuyler was public enemy number one because he has tried to screw us and conspire against us, just like any number of other promoters in the state. But he's taken it one step further. He got my longtime girlfriend Zoe Hall arrested for slapping Donald Jaykes for getting involved in a match at least 10 times, nearly screwing me out of my Coastal Empire Wrestling Championship at least 10 times before he finally actually did. And they've installed Randy Reno. That's the one who literally Chip Schuyler pulled over the top of me after he had hit me in the face with a chainmail glove, knocked me unconscious. And here's the thing about Reno, because I'm not done with Reno, but this idiot, the only reason they picked you is because they know you're dumb enough to be manipulated. And he can't understand that because he's stuck in some kind of trance. Donald Jaykes claims that there's going to be some kind of cleanse of Reno going to occur, which I don't even know what that's going to consist of. But what everybody's going to want to see is the flying fro Michael Walker. He's one of the hottest up and coming talents in the state of Georgia. He's wrestling Shug D, who was trained by Fro's father, actually. So he grew up watching Shug D wrestle as he was a kid. He was a fan of him personally, and he'd always aspired to get in the ring with him. But unfortunately, Shug got hired by Donald Jaykes and Chip Schuyler to come in and get rid of him. So they're going to hit him where it hurts the most if they can help it. But me and Peps are going to try to keep the other two occupied, as Peps will be taking on Simon Sermon, which that I don't know if people understand how big that match is going to be, but that's going to be something unlike any match you've ever seen. And then things are going to get more personal than ever when I get my revenge on Chip Schuyler. I'm going to be taking part in my first death match, which It's for some people. It's not for others. It's not really my style. It's not really my taste in wrestling. I prefer traditional wrestling and all that, but sometimes there's no other option when things get so personal. I mean, this guy literally screwed Exotic Youth out of holding all the championships in Coastal Empire Wrestling. He literally had my girlfriend arrested. He instructed cops to arrest people who did absolutely nothing wrong other than us on the roster, just throwing their weight around. They have tried getting fans banned from the show who support Exotic Youth. They've done everything they can, and one day they're going to realize that the fraud's going to be exposed. They're using this as a front for something else, and they're trying to fix all this crap because they're betting on it illegally. Chip Skyler's going to be exposed. Chip Skyler's going to be left in the ring, and he's not going to be ready for the violence I'm going to inflict on him. He loves death matches. He loves them. He thinks they're so much fun, and that's where he's wrong. He's an absolute idiot if he thinks that that's what's going to be when I get in the ring with him, because it is not going to be fun. I'm going to paint that canvas with his blood. I'm going to leave him as close to death as I can without actually killing him. And I mean that, Chip Skyler. I promise you, you are not walking out of there April 27th.
So April 27th, bell time is at 7, correct? There. Again,
no, bell time is it. Yeah, you're right. 7. Doors at 6:30. Bell time 7.
Yep, right there. Like you said, it's 79 Ross Road, Savannah, Georgia. Head on down there. April 27th. Doors open at 6:30. Bell time is at 7. Yes, folks, you do have to be 21 to consume alcohol in the building. Keep that in mind as well.
I think that goes without saying, but we have to say it.
I agree. That's why I threw it in there, because you'd be surprised. Look, but Coastal's not the only place you've had some issues in the past. And I know you mentioned it earlier.
I don't even have time to cool down from Chip Skyler before we move into this.
Yeah, I'm going to take you straight in. Yeah, so listen, full disclosure, obviously, Gary Lamb, friend of the show. So this is kind of where, look, we'll try to look, cooler heads will prevail. I'm going to be professional.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start with this. Fuck Gary Lamb. Fuck Southern Honor. It's been said before, but it can't be said enough. This is something that is like as real as it gets, real life. Like there's no story involved. I have never liked them, and at one point I gave them the chance. I had always told Peps and Bryce, we shouldn't even go there. Like we shouldn't even allow them the opportunity to have us on their show with the shit they've said about us, with the way that they don't understand what they have. In my opinion, when they first brought us in, their intention was to bury us. And what have they done? I mean, look at every story we had. Every time it should have been Exotic Youth. Every time the story could be finished, they do one more thing to come in and screw us over. We had enough. We quit, and we decided, you know what? Why don't we get them back? Why don't we get them back and show them and have them at our mercy? And what happens? We go back, and Gary does all the same shit that he got on us for doing. He's a hypocrite. I mean, if you really think about it, the whole thing was, well, who's the tag team champions? Because the guy who wasn't in the match made the pinfall, right? Well, Gary Lamb, I don't think your name was on the damn contract to be in that match. So the controversy hasn't been solved, in my opinion. But at the same time, I don't want to give any of you people the time of day of seeing us again. Did you see how hostile the people were when we were leaving after that match? Did you see how happy they were to see us in that state, Nick? Excuse me, sorry.
But listen now.
Don't forgive me.
Let's play the devil's advocate here. You did put hands on Gary Lamb a couple months prior to that.
Yeah, he shouldn't have chased us down and tried to get in the car. What was he trying to do? He should have left his nose out of our business. That was the problem from the beginning. Nick, if you fuck with Exotic Youth, we are not going to forget about it. I try to keep my cool. And I was struggling with it when we were talking about Chip. But when you go from one thing to the next like this and you bring up Gary Lamb, this is something that has personally boiled my blood since day one. Because when somebody goes out of their way to say, I can't believe Exotic Youth is considered the standard in Georgia wrestling as far as tag teams go several years ago. After the first time we had a match at IWE, which this is really the turning point. This is when we became known everywhere, pretty much. Is when we went to IWE, we had this great feud with the Ugly Ducklings, and a report had said that Exotic Youth has become the new standard for tag team wrestling. And Gary Lamb couldn't accept that because we weren't under his roof. He wanted us to be under his roof. After I went to Canton and put posters of us up everywhere, and he said, man, maybe there is something to this. Maybe these kids are smart. Maybe they are something different. Maybe they do bring something to the table. Well, no shit, Gary. You should have seen that from day one, and that's why we don't play by your rules. Because we weren't going to sit here and let our brand be buried. We weren't going to let you treat us like we were some kind of damn jobbers. And quite frankly, we aren't going to sit there and lay down for anybody. So when it comes to that, y'all can do whatever you want, Southern Honor. I don't give a damn. I don't care when your next show is. I'm not coming. Bryce ain't coming. Pepper Bottom ain't coming. So if you want to see Exotic Youth in Canton, well, somebody else better start a promotion. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, listen, again, to play devil's advocate there, I think, like, you sure they didn't just play the card back on you? You played it first, and then he just kind of.
Okay. We're talking about somebody who has so many people who look up to him, Gary Lamb, and I'm not going to get into what he does in his other professions because that's the one thing that he likes to leave out of it, and I'll respect that even though I don't respect him as a man. Gary Lamb should lead by example. So if you're going to sit there and say we're wrong for what we did, that we're hypocrites for what we did, and you're going to say that, oh, we don't know if it's Exotic Youth or the Grapplers or the Tag Team Champions, well, as I see it, the last two people who had pinfalls in those two matches were Bryce Cannon and Gary Lamb. So maybe Bryce Cannon and Gary Lamb are the Tag Team Champions. Maybe that, because if we're not based in any of our argument in logic, then what the hell are we having an argument for, Nick?
But, well, listen.
I wrestled the whole match. And when we won the tag team titles, Bryce made the pinfall. There should have been no question in anybody's mind. The referee couldn't prove at that point that Bryce wasn't the one who started on the other side. Whatever call is made at the end of the match, that's the call you go with. And when we turn into, I don't know, the NFL or whatever, and pussify that sport, by going back and doing the review of this and that and the other, then we're taking away what pro wrestling is. The referee seen Exotic Youth's hand raised at the end of that match. They rang the bell. I was in the ring. If you guys didn't know that, that's their fault. They're idiots. How in the hell? Now tell me how Grappler 1 was dumb enough to not know I wasn't his tag team partner. Or is it that I'm just so smart? I don't know. But I think there's something to both.
He kind of explained a little bit that he thought that he was going to try to pull one over on you. He knew it was you, but you just happened to get lucky and pull it on them first.
Oh, he knew it was me. That's what they all say after the fact, right?
Listen, right, but look, you're correct. I will agree with you on this. The referee's call was final. Giving them the return match also was a fair move as well, in my opinion, because he was there as well. Like, look, you're the champs. So, but then the Grapplers would get the match.
Okay, but you see, here's the technicality that makes it different. And this is why, you're a fan. I don't expect you to know this, Nick. I don't expect you to understand this. But when there's a multi-man tag match, no disqualifications, okay? Triple threat. That means that what we did was legal. What they did was not. Cut and dry.
Okay. I will let that argument lie, but again, I think this is far from over. I know you may think it's over, but I got a feeling this thing's far from over. But look, let's move past Southern Honor. I can tell you're worked up, and I want to calm you down here before we go home here. We'll talk about some of the.
Excuse me.
Yeah, listen. I know you've got a bunch of other shows that you're going to be on. The Exotic Youth, the package, everything. Kind of let some people know where can they look for you guys here over the next short time. I know there's some dates there that you want to make sure you get in.
Well, Nick, I don't have my dates in front of me right now because I'm using what I wrote them on, but I sent them to you. If you could help me out here, where am I at?
All right. So
and I'll tell you on what's going to happen.
the dates you gave me to promote here are May the 4th at Premier All Star.
Yes, my return to Premier All Star. I think they said that's going to be like in Cartersville. I think that's where it's going to be. I'd have to double check that for sure, but I'm sure that the poster will be out.
Yeah.
I haven't been over there all year. I'm excited to make my way back over there in West Georgia. It'll be exciting.
Yep. You mentioned May 11th, IWE, kind of another home away from home kind of sort of for you guys.
Absolutely,
you guys
absolutely. We've got to get back to the top of the tag division. I mean, we got 2 losses now to Buff and Fluff this year. We had a couple of victories, but we're not where we want to be. We're gonna have to talk with this new guy, Caleb's Kitchen, and see if he's worth a damn, because I really don't think so. He's somebody who I've also not liked since that day with Gary, because he was in there in the comments trying to run his mouth. So now that he's in charge, I don't know. I kind of like Tim Blackman a hell of a lot more. So I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to Tim Blackman to see if there's something we can't work out. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Maybe. But like I said, yeah, Kitchens is not it. He's a shifty guy. I will tell you that he's a shifty guy.
Yeah,
so
no
keep
kidding.
Your eye on it, so.
Just take one look at him. He's a weasel.
May 17th, Forever Pro Wrestling. That's a new promotion up there.
Yes. Shout out to Kevin Ryan. I think this is going to be their second show. Nothing but top-notch talent on the show. I'm not sure who I'm going to be, whose ass I'm going to be kicking yet that night. But so far, I know that they announced Joe Black and O'Shea Edwards, I think it was.
That's
yesterday.
Correct. That is correct.
I think that's what it is. A couple more really good matches. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a really good one to see if you're in the Calhoun area. For fans that are always constantly hitting me up about when am I coming back to Rome, Calhoun's right down the road. So if you want to see me, that's the next time I'll be in your area.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Then 5/18. Looks like you're doing a doubleheader again. Disruptor and Deep South. So
we got Disruptor Wrestling in Deep South. So that'll be in Buford and in Atlanta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Both shows, great audience, great atmosphere. Great for people who've never seen wrestling before and for the most hardcore fans. I'm not sure what's going to be going on with Disruptor. I've got to talk with management because that was absolutely ridiculous what happened with the twins and Tim. And whatever, I might call it Wentworth because I think it's his fault he got us into this. He might have to get us out of it. We'll see what happens with that. Deep South. Yesterday I got screwed over by the wall. The same man who screwed me over whenever I was going for the Deep South title a month ago against Skrill the Great. And I had every intention of ripping the wall limb from limb. He's like a tree. Why not tear the limbs off? But it did not go as planned as he shoved the referee into me. I hit my crotch on the top rope, and he killed me after that. But I plan on getting revenge, so I don't know who they got me booked against. But if I have my way with it, I'm wanting to whoop both the wall and Skrilla's ass as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll definitely see you at Disruptor. That's right down in my neck of the woods down the road, so I'll be there for that one for sure.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, and then May 24th, it says through 27th, Zicky Dice's Outlandish Paradise. I don't know if a lot of people, you can check that out. He's done a couple shows. It's a wild event to say the least. Crazy.
Yeah, I actually have I think it's 7 year long running thing. I don't remember what we're calling it, but it's like the $1 million mullet money invitational or something where I called somebody out from the audience. I think it got a little bit of controversy because of the fan who got in the ring or whatever last year, but nonetheless. But I think we're still going with that tradition. I think that somebody's going to have a chance that night in the audience to win $10,000. One of those nights. Other than that, I'm not really sure. It's going to be at MomoCon, though, and I think it's going to be 4 days of wrestling this year. As far as I've heard.
26th, yeah. 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th. Yep.
So that's super exciting. So that'll be like, I think that's Friday to Monday. So
yeah. Keep your head on a swivel at that event. That's all he could say. Things
get a little trippy with the Outlandish Sticky Dice. So
yeah, it's great talent, it's for sure. Look, before we take off, I always give an opportunity because look, you got the shirt on. I see it, Exotic 316. Where do guys, hey, where do they follow you? Where do they get your merch? All that kind of stuff. Make sure you get all that in before we get out of here. Especially like social media follows and stuff like that.
No doubt. So merch is available in a variety of places because we haven't solidified all of it. But you can go get all the merch that we come out with in our archive on, I think it's Teespring. Zach Mosley. I have to look at the URL, but you can follow us at Zach Mosley Official, Exotic Youth Official on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Coastal Empire Wrestling on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can get our shirts at any event. If there's a particular one you want, you can order them in advance and we can have them ready for you within a week or two. So just let us know as far as that goes. You can get the merch that we do have on hand at any show. But if you're not spending money, don't come up to the merch table. That's all I'm saying. We're there to make money. We got other things to worry about when we're at the show. We're not interested in sitting there and talking about your grandma. So if you're going to come over there, make sure you got something good to say.
Well, there's always merch, and of course we, like you said, that's buy merch, buy tickets. That's what it's all about. Like you said, hey, you're a business guy, right? That's what we're chasing. That's what everybody should be chasing. And I tell talents all the time.
I've got to plug the Coastal Empire Wrestling. You can get tickets now. $15 for general admission. Kids 10 and under free. $20 for front row, all ages. And all you have to do to get those tickets is Cash App Coastal EMP Wrestling, cash tag, and then send the amount for the total number of tickets, and then just tell us how many and what type of ticket. And we'll have your name there from the Cash App, and your name will be there at will call on the door.
Absolutely. Coastal Empire Wrestling, Saturday, April 27th. Bell time is at 7. Doors open at 6:30, so absolutely make sure you get your tickets. And look, we kind of want to do this because, like, I also keep saying, look, we want to see more exotic youth outside of the Southeast, outside of Georgia. We want to see you guys everywhere, and we're hoping like this is an avenue to get that done. Help got to get that out there. So take those bookings.
We're willing to travel anywhere that is worthwhile to go. We want to get out there. We want to do business with people who have the same mindset as us in the business, and in that, like, it needs to be quality. And that's the biggest, most important thing for us. The thing is, it's not that we haven't been out of the state and that we haven't been out of the Southeast, but it's that there's so much quality here, and we don't often get offers that are comparable for what it is. But we are willing to negotiate, and we do look at things as an overall value proposition. If you're coming at us with a show, we would love to see if we are a good fit for you. Now, that's not to say that, hey, we're out here, we're going to beg for bookings from anybody anywhere. We're not going to do that. But if you're a show that we think and you think are a great fit, bring us in and we will entertain your fans. We will add something to it and give them just a little bit more, something to dig deep into. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think you're going to find anything else like us in the country, so I definitely encourage you to hit us up. We do want to travel and get out there more.
Absolutely. Make sure in the show notes, guys, I will have links for all the guys, how to get a hold of them. All that stuff is in the show notes. So if you're watching and you're like, this is absolutely somebody we want to do business with, just like I said, go right to the show notes. It'll be in there, and you can hit them up and give them a, like, hey, get them out here, get them in your territory, man. That's all. That's what you want to do.
No doubt. We've been especially wanting to go more up into the Northeast and the Midwest. So any places in there, especially, hit us up.
Absolutely. Well, Zach, it's been a pleasure having you on. I always, again, one more time, I say, anything else you want to throw out before we get out of here?
Man, I could talk all day. I'm long-winded, so that's my problem. I'll let you guys go for now because I don't want anybody to forget all this valuable information that we've already covered. So,
well, buddy, I appreciate you coming on. And look, whether we agree on everything, that's probably not going to happen. But
I really didn't think you were going to try and get me worked up like that. I feel like you did that on purpose a little bit.
Maybe. Time will tell. But listen, we'll have you back on, down the road. Let us know kind of how everything's going with Coastal. Maybe have all three of you on together. We'll work it out down the something down the road. But again, I do, however, as a professional, want to thank you for taking your time coming on and spending a little time with us and kind of getting the word out about Coastal and exotic youth, man. I appreciate it.
All right, so now the time we get to say it's time to tap out.
You don't get to say that.
Oh, shit.
But anyway, I appreciate you, man. We'll catch you down the road, buddy.
See ya.